In this video, I'll do a complete breakdown of how to set up a dynamic live show and how to build a live streaming studio. Get ready to explore some new territory. Welcome everyone, my name is Joey Dowd, creator of New Territory Media, a video production agency and YouTube channel where we guide you on taking your video production skills to the next level. In this video, I'm going to break down this live streaming studio I built that really got put to the test this past weekend during WordCamp Los Angeles. WordCamps are local conferences that have a bunch of presentations from the local community about WordPress, the open source blogging and website platform. Obviously, these have all been virtual events. For WordCamp Los Angeles, we always had two speakers presenting simultaneously on two different live feeds throughout the day. There was also a Zoom Hangout room, and sponsor Zoom rooms are kind of virtual booths. So it's a bit scattered and tough to know as an attendee what's going on. So the concept I had was to create a short live show every hour that would stream on all the live feeds and tell people what talks are coming up next, what sponsor events are happening, and pull in some dynamic content like tweets and guests. The live show included just about every element you'd expect from a broadcast quality production. We had video playback and overlays, remote guests, animated lower thirds, a variety of shot layouts, and live social media posts. The biggest challenge was I had to both produce the show and be the on-camera host. So everything had to be programmed so I could operate the entire show from a few buttons right here at the desk and not touch vMix. So I'm going to break down how I pulled this whole thing off. From the camera and lighting setup, bringing in remote guests, setting up vMix and vMix shortcuts and triggers, and then I'll run you through the entire flow of the show. So let's get to it. Let's talk about the camera setup first. I'll kind of run through the flow of the signal, starting from the camera going all the way to the computer. These are just things that I already had from video production. These are not fancy cameras. These are a couple generations old. The main one over here, I've got the Panasonic GH4 inside a Glide Gear teleprompter case. This is the least expensive teleprompter setup I could find. That would take an iPad, and I'll talk about that in a second. And as my B cam, which I didn't use that much, but I have my wide angle lens on here. This is just a GH3, so an even older model than this one. So none of these are super fancy cameras, but they get the job done. And they're both taking HDMI signal and going out into the ATEM Mini Pro. Over here with this Glide cam setup, so I also have the iPad that I'm using as a teleprompter. So this is actually connected to my MacBook right now as a third monitor, and I'm using Prompt Smart Pro to send out the teleprompter feed here to the iPad. Having teleprompters is kind of key to really keeping the show smooth, keeping me from not mumbling around and trying to think my thoughts. Just having it all straightforward really made the show flow smooth and worked really well. Here is my MacBook setup, so I didn't need to have a computer here just to pull up websites or to look at notes or to have sort of any kind of reference. But this is not sending out the live stream. This is just for my control. It's using Apple Sidecar to connect as a second monitor to the iPad screen. For the microphone headset, I'm basically using a Samson headset. This is my first time sort of dabbling into headsets, as microphones usually either have a lavalier or have a boom up above, but I want something that would just kind of stay put on my face. For me personally, the issue with this headset is it does scratch against my beard sometimes, so I have to be mindful that it has enough space away from my beard. And this is connecting into a Sennheiser AVX in the back of my pants. And that's just running into the ATEM, where I'm also mixing the audio feed in with the two cameras that I'm using with the ATEM Mini Pro, which I'll talk about in a second. And then for audio return, if I was off air, I would have the computer speakers on. They're running through the TV, so I could just easily mute the master output. But when I was on air, obviously I can't have that. So I have this in-ear earpiece. So this just clicks on the back of my shirt. This is plugged into the computer with an extension headphone jack, so it's pretty simple setup. And then this is just kind of like those Secret Service agents earpieces. It just goes in my ear, it stays in the back. What I'm listening for is I have a button on my control switch here where I can swap between either listening to the master audio out, just to double check, make sure that my audio is going out and everything is sounding the way it's supposed to. But these things are great, and I highly recommend them if you are doing a lot of presenting and you don't want to have headphones. You don't want to, it's kind of like, it's become a virtual look. Either people have big headphones on or headsets on or AirPods on. If you want to have something a little bit more discreet, but you do still want to have clear audio and be able to hear, these are about $15 on Amazon and super, super useful. So now let's cover the ATEM Mini Pro. For this device, you can basically input 4 separate HDMI sources and 2 separate audio sources and mix them together, and it's basically a really excellent mini mixer that can then send out either a stream via USB or an HDMI stream, or this can actually encode the signal and stream it out over the internet. I'm not using it for that case. So the Pro version that I'm using right now is a bit overkill for the use case I'm using it. I'm not using it as encoder, I'm not recording from it, I'm not streaming from it. The only thing that I am using that is available on Pro is the multi-view look, which I'll switch to right now. And so you can see I'm also not using this live, but I'm using this to check my audio levels, which you can see on mic 2 because I'm mixing this with my sound and combining the sound. So it's a little bit overkill, so you can easily get away with the ATEM Mini. But it's nice because I can have multiple inputs with here. It does mean I have to combine basically switching my video feeds here. If I want to switch cameras, I have to switch it here. I can't make that a vMix shortcut because in vMix's eyes, this is just a single input. For the case I'm using it, that was perfectly fine. You know, it could do transitions, it could do other things. I'm just not using it in that case, but it's an extremely powerful device and extremely price efficient. So the audio is coming in here, and then I have my main camera up here at source number 1, and then the wide angle camera over here, source number 2. All right, so also here on the desk, in addition to the ATEM, I have the Stream Deck. This is basically the heart of how I control vMix and is extremely vital to making sure that everything actually works. And I'll tell you how I have it all set up and programmed. But basically I have this as my other device here, and then I have an iPad mini, which I will explain in a second, but basically I can either pull in the social media post using vMix Social, or right now it's on the control center for the Zoom room, and that's how I'm bringing in remote guests. And I'm gonna go over that in a second of how I bring them in. Basically all of this entire setup right here, I can control everything I need to without having to jump into vMix or touch the vMix computer. Also up here, what you are looking at right now, this is vMix's multi-view output that's going to a TV. So this is plugged into the vMix computer. I can see what's on, what's live, what's preview. You'll notice that there's a number on the live screen, a big red number. That's a setting where actually I have a countdown clock for myself to know how much time is left in the show before I need to get off so that the other speakers can go, just to make sure I don't go over time. But that's only visible to me, and I also have that sent out over Zoom, so speakers also know how much time is left, but that doesn't go out in the master feed. And so through some visibility settings, I'm able to only have these countdown clocks appear internally and not go out on the master feed. You'll notice, so this is a classical multi-view look. So we have the preview and the live shot, and then we have 8 inputs. And these are mapped to the first 8 inputs I have. They're also mapped to the Stream Deck controller, where I have inputs 1 through 4 on the middle row and inputs 5 to 8 on the bottom row, so that visually I don't have to think about like which number is where. I can easily look at the grid and match it up with the Stream Deck to know the live shot. So all of these video signals, the audio, the 2 cameras, basically all coming into ATEM, and then ATEM is coming into the vMix PC that I've got down here. This I added a Blackmagic capture card, just a basic deck link that either has one SDI or one HDMI. You have to choose which one, you can't do both. But it's all coming in here, and then right now these 3 monitors are hooked up to the same computer. This is just a reference of a switchboard, so I can see, make sure the live feed is not having any errors and quickly glance at it. This is the main machine, so this is the main monitor for vMix, so I can control everything from here. All right, so before I get into too much detail about vMix, let me go over the rest of the set setup with lighting and the TVs. All right, this is the set with no lights on, just the office light. I've got 2 primary lights that are lighting up the set. They're both from Newer, which you can get on Amazon. They're both around $100, $150 mark each. This one is multicolor. It's got a mix of tungsten and daylight bulbs, which you could dim both or either. Right now it's set pretty much just a little bit of tungsten. This is mainly to kind of light my face a bit more so the rest of the set falls into shadow and that my face stands out. It also warms up my face a little bit. I've got a clamp up here, so it's clipped onto this rafter, and that's a great way, you know, kind of figuring out any way to get the light as close as possible, but to keep everything out of the shot. This just has a baby pin on it, so I was able to clamp the light in. Other light back here it's another Newer Amazon light. And that just adds a little bit more fill to the entire set, so it's not super dark. And then, more importantly, to add some depth, but not more importantly, equally as important is the background to add some depth. So let me flip this camera over here. These are just again, you could just find a bunch of stuff on Amazon, cheap, fake neon lights. And then the other thing I have back here are these little remote controlled battery powered tea lights. You can change the colors on these, so these, can go red, green, blue, orange. But adding lights in the background is a really easy way to create a little bit more depth and just kind of create a little bit more of atmosphere in your background. The other sort of trick that I did is I have the camera positioning on an angle here. So this was deliberate, where I'm like shooting at an angle so you can kind of see into the corner versus just having me flat up against a wall. Key to that, it brings the eye in a bit more, adds a little bit more depth. And the last thing I have back here are these two lights, one shooting blue, one shooting red. Again, Amazon, these are just like outdoor lights that you can shift the color a bit, and so they shoot out a lot of light. And then this back here is a strip of lights that I just taped to the back of this box. Both of those are remote control, and they're all, you can shift the colors on all of those lights. I have this monitor set up here. Originally when I did the show, I was bringing, if I had live guests on, I would have their video feed here. But because I don't have studio broadcast grade equipment, there was too much of a delay here between switching between a shot of like this, where it'd be me and the person on the screen, and then switching to their actual video feed. The sync wouldn't match up. So it'd be kind of weird if you watch this angle, their audio and video would be delayed. I'd switch to the other angle, and then it would be more in sync. So that concept never really worked. I would need a lot more equipment, a lot more restructuring of how this whole setup works to do it. And I was just bringing them in through Zoom and wanted to keep it a little bit more simple. So I stopped using the screen for video playback of people. Basically what I'm using this is just a separate output from vMix coming out over NDI. So it's another monitor on my computer, just my regular computer background. And I just have full screen, the free NDI video monitor, which is just a free program that can display NDI feeds. So this is just an output coming out of NDI. I can switch it with my settings, either between this looping video, or if I need to want to display social posts. So this is from Twitter that I'm pulling in. If I want to display tweets, I can bring them up on the screen here, and I could also switch them out and bring them out through vMix. I also sort of have a reverse connection where anything I bring up here, I can bring back into vMix. So if I had a website up, sometimes I bring up web pages here, maybe of the sponsor or maybe of the WordCamp website itself. I bring websites up here so I could show them here on set, and then also that video feed via vMix's desktop capture would be going back into vMix, and I'll show you what that layout looks like in a second. But it was another way for me to pull this monitor feed back into vMix if I needed to show a web page or go over something. So if I have it on set here, I could bring it back into vMix. All right, and the last thing, before I get into vMix, let me show you how the Zoom room is set up, and then we'll go over all of vMix and putting this all together into a broadcast. Okay, welcome to the Zoom room. So this is a separate computer that is just running Zoom Room, which is Zoom's conference room software. The advantage of the Zoom room is you could have 3 independent monitors. So this is inside one of my virtual stage meeting rooms. So it's just a regular Zoom meeting, but because it is pulled up in a Zoom room, I have NDI running, so this is going to vMix capture. So each of these independent monitors I can bring into vMix as its own source. Right now you're seeing the return feed, which is what people see when they join the vMix, so they can be able to see what's going out live. So this is just a live output with a time code number on it, just a countdown clock. So this is not actually in the live broadcast. But this is a way for people to know what's live, so if they see themselves, they know that they are on camera and presenting. The big issue with Zoom, if you've ever been in a Zoom room and you have multiple people, the placement tends to shift around if someone leaves or enters. So if you're trying to just do a screen grab or capture a certain element of just the Zoom window, like let's say I was running Zoom regularly on this, and then there was a group of 4 people for a panel, but one person left, the placement would shift, and then everything I kind of pulled into vMix would shift around. Zoom has recently changed that, and you are able to pin multiple people. So I might get rid of the Zoom room setup. It's probably a bit overkill now and unnecessary, but it does have one big advantage that I'm going to show you right now. So with the Zoom room and the Zoom control panel, the main thing is you do have to have another iPad to control Zoom, because again, this is our use case is to be in a conference room, so this would be on the conference room table. If I go to manage participants and me, and then I say pin video, I actually have the choice of pinning the video to any of the 3 monitors. So I have this set up right now where if I pin the video to one, it automatically adds the video and brings the video in as a guest. So now if I switch to my guest output, guest is already here. Hello, 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 hello. So all from my desk, I can have someone join the Zoom room, bring them in remotely, and immediately throw them into the live shot layout without having to mess around with anything, without having to try to readjust any sizes, or without having them try to figure out any of the tech stuff. So now vMix does have vMixCall, which is excellent and works really well, and it gives you a lot more control over the video quality. In my experience, the biggest issue has been people are so used to Zoom. It's a little bit more iffy on, which browser people are using, if they set their webcam permissions up properly. So for something, because everyone pretty much knows how to use Zoom now, for something where I don't have the time before the show to like mess around and do any tests with these people, I just need someone to like come in, like here's the link, you come in, you're already in the show. There's very few things to worry about. Zoom fits that bill a lot better than vMixCall. So that's why I have this Zoom setup. But now that I can pin stuff in Zoom natively, I might get rid of the Zoom room. But it is a really good option, and does make things a lot easier when you can pin up to 3 separate screens and bring them in as sources.
Hey, what's up everyone? So originally this was going to be a single video that was going to cover everything from the equipment and the hardware all the way to the vMix software and the setup there. But it's getting pretty long, so I'm going to split up into 2 videos. So this is going to be the end of part 1, so we covered all the hardware stuff. And tune in for the next video, part 2. We're going to go through the entire process in vMix, from how all the shots were set up, how all the audio is mixed up, how the streaming set up, and how it's all going out and comes together in vMix. So be sure to check out part 2. Subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon to make sure that you do get alerted when part 2 goes live. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave in the comments below if any questions you have or how you have your streaming set up. I would love to see what you're doing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.